The movie begins by showing two women who are fighting in an arena. The woman with short hair is named Zayn, while the woman with long hair is named Ona. Their fight was fierce because they both had capable martial arts skills. In the end, Zayn succeeded in cornering Ona, but she actually cheated by scratching her finger on Zayn's face. This made Ona able to turn things around and made Zayn lose badly because she lost her balance, so Ona won the fight. Turning a few days after the match, there is a man named Hassan who has just got off a bus. He turned out to be a member of the special military force who had just finished his assignment, so he was given a day off and decided to return home. Besides that, it turns out that he has always been a figure feared by city residents, but he does not really know his true identity, so he dares to leave the city and join the military. As he was walking, Hassan was stopped by a police car. The policeman got down to ask for his identity card. At first, Hassan did not turn to look at the policeman. He only complied by handing over his identity card, until finally, he turned to the policeman to see his face. Unexpectedly, Hassan smiled when he found out that the police turned out to be his best friend named Boone. Turned out they were the former right-hand man of a gangster leader in the area. It didn't stop there. Hassan was the best former fighter who became the leader's mainstay then. Soon after, two young men fight, so Boone says goodbye to Hassan to take them to the police station. Unexpectedly, they found out that the man beside Boone was Hassan, a man whose name was already well known throughout the city because he had once been the right-hand man of the gangster leader. They were amazed at Hassan's figure, even though he didn't really care. A few moments later, Hassan was finally escorted by Boone to his house. He intended to meet his family that he had left long ago. He finally knows that the city has been controlled by one of the most feared gangsters, and that makes everyone work at minimum wage. In other words, the people in the city have been oppressed by the gangster leader. Arriving home, Hassan meets his younger sister, who is none other than Zayn, the woman Ona fought with at the start of the film. Zayn seemed indifferent to the arrival of her elder brother because she was still annoyed with him, who had the heart to leave his family to become a military soldier. Not long after, his father greeted Hassan warmly, unlike his younger sister. Then they talked, and it turned out that Mr. Munaz works with the gangster leader to pay off the debt he has. In their conversation, it was revealed that his mother had died. Seeing Mr. Munaz's condition, Hassan became compassionate, and his goal was to go home to cut off all ties with the gangster, so he asked his father and his sister to leave the city with him. But he rejected Hassan's wishes because he had too much debt, so he was forced to work in the factory owned by the gangster leader. Hearing this, Hassan became angry. At night, Hassan intended to meet the gangster leader to discuss everything, but his intention was a little hindered when he met his neighbor named Nazmi. They actually didn't greet each other properly because he was surprised that Nazmi wanted to join the gangster gang. At that time, Hassan tries to advise Nazmi to stop being the gangster's staff and start looking for another better job. But Nazmi was cynical and didn't accept his advice. Nazmi even said that Zayn, his younger sister, was a prostitute. Luckily, Hassan can still control his emotions even though Zayn is insulted. Then he reveals how Nazmi's elder brother died of an overdose. Unexpectedly, his words infuriated Nazmi, and without further ado, he attacked Hassan. Unfortunately, their commotion was heard by a long-haired man named Ifritz, who was none other than the main right-hand man of the gangster leader. Shortly after, Ifritz broke up the fight, bringing Hassan to meet their leader at his headquarters. When he arrived at the gangster headquarters, Hassan found out that there was an arena for illegal fights. He was then taken to a corner of the room, and finally, he met Raja, the leader of the gangsters. After the match was over and there were no more spectators in the room, Hassan stated his intention to meet Raja. Shortly after, he bravely asked Raja to not disturb his family, and his debt problem would be paid off as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Raja did not approve his request because the debtors were not himself but his father and his younger sister. Raja explained that his family had to meet him alone. In the end, Hassan did not find a solution to his discussions with Raja that night, but when he was about to leave the headquarters, Raja suddenly offered a deal. He asked Hassan to return to being his right hand, but Hassan refused his request firmly. Soon afterward, Hassan left the headquarters because he could not find any agreement, but outside, he again met Nazmi, who was already waiting for him. Suddenly, Nazmi and his men attacked him. Fortunately, Hassan was already trained as a soldier, so he could defeat some of Nazmi's men without much difficulty. Seeing this, Nazmi, pressured by Hassan's toughness, ordered the remaining men to retreat because he realized their physical strength would not match Hassan's. In the end, Hassan finally won the fight and returned home even though his right arm was injured. Arriving at home, Zayn saw her elder brother, who was injured. Because she couldn't bear it, then she treated him. At that moment, Hassan apologized to her because he had left her and his family. Suddenly, he asks her to accompany him back to Raja's headquarters to solve their family problems. The next day, Hassan was reprimanded by Mr. Munaz because he did not want Hassan to be involved in anything more with Raja and asked Hassan to let him work at Raja's factory even for the rest of his life. Mr. Munaz explained that their debt would not be paid off quickly because Raja always raised the interest, so it was mounting. Hearing this, Hassan couldn't bear it. but he still insisted on getting his family out of the bondage of Raj's slavery. Unexpectedly, Mr. Munaz was approved by Boone, who visited there to meet Hassan. Boone asked him not to interfere with Raj's plot anymore. Unfortunately, he didn't listen, even though he had been warned. Long story short, Hassan and Zain met Raja at his headquarters to negotiate their family's debt problems, and they both returned to ask for relief from these debts from the gangster leader. But Raja instead considers that he will erase 50% of Hassan's family debt if Zain wants to eat Raja's used dog food. Hearing his request was a lucrative offer, Zain did not hesitate to do all that. On the other hand, a female figure, who is none other than Ona, starts recording Zain's activities while eating dog food. Ona herself turned out to be Raja's daughter. Then she approached him and said she wanted to fight Zain again. Meanwhile, Hassan looks angry because he doesn't want to see his younger sister being insulted in such a disgusting way. But Raja finally makes a deal saying that his family's debt is considered paid off if Hassan and Zain can beat Ona and her elder brother in the fighting arena. Hearing that, Hassan and Zain agreed to the deal and finally met in the arena. Suddenly, the bell signaling the start of the battle rang, thus making them attack each other. At the beginning of the fight, Ona and Zain were knocked down by the men's punches. This made Hassan face to face with Raja's son, but soon Ona and Zain fought again. Their fight was fierce, but Hassan and Zain could dominate the fight, and they could pressure Ona and her elder brother. In the end, Hassan and Zain managed to defeat them, and according to the agreement, Raja had to erase all of their debts. After the fierce battle, Zain and Hassan left to return to their house. They look happy to be free from Raja's power. She has even dreamed of leaving soon and continuing her new life with her father and elder brother. But the happiness didn't last long when Hassan realized that Raja's men were following them. Hassan, who no longer wanted anything to do with Raja, asked his younger sister to run away and ignore the people who followed. At the same time, a bus appeared that stopped as if to save them. But it turns out the bus was just a trap for them because inside were gangster members led by Ona and her elder brother, who still couldn't accept their defeat earlier. On the bus, Hassan and Zain beat the gangsters' men one by one until finally, Zain succeeded in killing Ona's elder brother. Seeing this, Ona, who was angry, chased the bus driver away so he could drive the bus. Unexpectedly, she intended to crash the bus into a power pole. The incident made Hassan unconscious for a few seconds until a loud clap from Zain could woke him up. Then they rushed to hide when Raja had just come to where they were. Ona, with a gloomy face and crying, reported to her father that her elder brother had been killed by Zain and Hassan. This finally made Raja angry, and he ordered his men to come to Mr. Munaz's house. Hearing this, Hassan informed his father and tried to contact him by telephone, but unfortunately, there was no response. On the other hand, the gangster members had arrived at Hassan's house, while Mr. Munaz, who was in the house, just realized that his cell phone was ringing. Soon after, Mr. Munaz picked up a call from Hassan. On the phone call, he told his father to leave their house. Unfortunately, Mr. Munaz refused and told him it was too late, so he ended the call. Knowing that the gangster troops were approaching, Mr. Munaz instead took a machete stuck in the ground in a pot. Then he sharpened the machete and was silent when Raja came to see him. Seeing that made Raja order all his men to kill Mr. Munaz and burn his house. Sometime later, Hassan and Zain finally arrived at their house. Unfortunately, they both had to accept that their house had been burned down and their father had not been saved. Not having had time to let go of their grief, Hassan and Zain faced Raja's men again, who was still around their house. Sadly, they were still unwilling to their father's death, making them both release all their emotions by brutally beating Raja's men one by one. After that, Zain intends to meet Raja at his headquarters, but Hassan stops her from wanting to do that, so they argue. At the same time, a police siren sounds, causing Zain to run away, while Hassan is suspected of murdering Raja's son, and the police who arrest him is none other than his best friend, Boone. After that, Boone took Hassan to the police station, but on the way, he told Boone that his younger sister would come to Raja's headquarters alone. Hearing that made them argue, but finally, Boone knew that Hassan could run away by hitting him, so Hassan agreed to the idea even though he was forced to. In the end, he managed to escape after beating Boone. Soon after, Hassan went to Raja's headquarters to save his younger sister. Meanwhile, at Raja's headquarters, Zain, who has been overcome by revenge, finally beats up everyone who tries to get in the way. Sometime later, Hassan finally caught up with his younger sister and they destroyed Raja's headquarters. Unexpectedly, they were confronted by factory employees who were none other than local residents who worked under Raja's control. It turns out that they all intended to stop Hassan and Zain's actions, but several cell phones belonging to factory employees suddenly rang, and they turned out to be calls from their families. Instead, the employees' families asked everyone to let Hassan and Zain kill Raja because, so far, they had suffered from being enslaved by him. In the end, the factory workers made way for Hassan and Zain. Not long after, Hassan ordered all the employees working at the factory to leave, and the employees just found out that the factory where they worked was only a cover for Raja to produce drugs in it. However, the arrival of Hassan and Zayn was again intercepted by Raj's men who attacked them to stop their intention to meet him. Even though they were surrounded, Hassan and Zayn could still finish off Raj's men easily. Unfortunately, their intention, which was already halfway back, was intercepted by Raj's right hand, Ifrit's and Ona. In the end, Zayn returns to fight Ona, while Hassan fights Ifrit's. Unexpectedly, Ifrit's turned out to be a formidable fighter. He didn't even retreat, let alone fall, even though Hassan had exerted all his strength. On the other hand, Zayn again succeeded in overthrowing Ona. But Hassan had not found a way to beat Ifrit's. Fortunately, he got help from Zayn to beat Ifrit's. Sadly, he could overthrow her easily. Hassan, who saw his younger sister injured, became angry and attacked Ifrit's again. But again, he is being pushed by Ifrit's because he's already starting to get tired. Even so, Hassan never gave up, so Ifrit's arrogantly handed Hassan 2 knives so he could fight him. Hassan, who had been controlled by revenge for his father's death, stood up again and fought Ifrit's with all his might. Shortly after, Zayn returned to help with the rest of her strength until finally, Hassan could take advantage of the gap to beat Ifrit's and make him fall. After the fight, Hassan and Zayn enter another room to find Raja and kill him. When he arrived in front of Raja's room, Hassan threw a gas canister to outwit his view and avoid being shot. After successfully entering the room, Hassan was confronted by Raja, who beat him without difficulty until he finally died. Seeing that made everyone cheer and chant Hassan's name when he and Zayn left the factory building carrying Raja's lifeless body. The film closes by showing several years after the incident, so Zayn is standing across from her father's grave. Currently, she lives peacefully and follows in the footsteps of her elder brother, namely, becoming a member of the Air Force Army. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that no matter how difficult the circumstances we live in, we never try to owe money, especially to moneylenders.